beware, the ides of March, Kickstart Budgeting 2024-25, 30-31, 47-48, now, Budgeting for Roadmap India 2047, CorporateMOM, Corporate Management Orbiter Mission. Copyright, CorporateMOM, Corporate Management Orbiter Mission.
Hello friends, another interesting subject from CorporateMOM. Beware the ides of March. Budgeting 24-25, 20-30 to 31, 20-47 to 48. Our corporate way of budgeting had been similar, identical for several decades. I think President Carter came with a zero budgeting or something. Otherwise, it's the same all over the world. Many of the MNCs have got the 3-year plan. And many of the countries have got the 5-year plan. And we keep digging on to that. That is 1 year, object governance, ERP. And in the month of March, as far as India is concerned, we frantically bring in to closure the year 23-24 as on today, and not even looking for 24-25, because nobody has any time. It is Saturdays, Sundays, or working days. We have to meet the targets. Target is almost not reaching, and there had been any number of numerous problems on everything that we can think of, but we have to reach that target the last day. Until the last day, everybody is working. That is our pattern of budgeting. We budget for the next year, 24-25. It must be almost ready. We must be looking at it from the December 23 onwards, and let us see how the last quarter comes, and based on which we'll make some minor adjustments and be ready to go on 1st of April 24. It does not happen because 23-24 is not yet over. We have to meet that target. So the April becomes a major problem of analyzing why we had gone wrong, where that adverse variance of that, and how to make it in good shape and provide with a possible good the window dressing and all those journal entries that we can think of. We think of in the month of April. Now, CorporateMOM would like to change that. Change it completely. What we are doing is not utilizing the energy force of each company has. We are using it very limited. That's what I had indicated in GDP GNH combo builder, and I have given the various aspects of ERP, not ERP, but EPP is the most important. In that context, here I would like to bring about that change. How to do the budgeting for 24-25, 20-30-31, 20-47-48. How to do that? That's why I said is beware of the ides of March. In ides of March, it's the 15th of March. We are frantic about the current year. If we have to extrapolate the same thing as we had done for the last about 5-6 decades to 20-30-31, we would be in the same position. If we look at for 20-47-48, we'll be in the same position. So what I'm trying to tell is this budgeting process must have a complete rehash, which would provide something different from what we have been looking at. That is my motto here. In fact, that's my motto here for 2024, which I had given in the preview. Unleashing the other people's energy. How to do that? So that there is no great frantic effort only at the end of the month or end of the month or the last month of the quarter or the last month of the year. Year to year, we are very keen about it. So, in this context, number one, the purpose is this: change your budgeting system. Number two, what happens to 2047? Why 2047 is being taken? That is the target which Prime Minister Modi has provided for India to reach $20 trillion. How good it is! Very good indeed. We don't do that. It's a very good CEO. Every CEO has to look into it very carefully. We do the 1 year budgeting. In the December, we make a lot of effort, present it by end of March, and ready for the next year's budget, 1 year. Then 3 year budget we do. Many MNCs do that. They have different countries, 45 different countries they cater to. Whereas Tata Group, Reliance, Ambani's, Adani's, they have a different setup. They may have only in India, but they have many number of conglomerates, a big conglomerate. Whereas Microsoft or Google, they may have place in everywhere on the earth. So same type of work they do in Google or Microsoft, which is extended to the very many countries in the world. Whereas here, the same work is being done by different companies within the same group. So this is the interesting factor as to reach the target of 23-24 as on today, and how this could be bettered. This can be bettered by Prime Minister Modi's target roadmap for 2047. How many of our companies, I had been in various companies, we don't do that. We do only for 1 year. That's the maximum. Then we have about 3 year plan if you are in an MNC. Or otherwise, you don't put a target and go towards that. What I say is we are extrapolating the same thing of whatever that we are doing at the moment. So whereas in a company like Tata Group, they not only do the individual companies, and they are also expanding in different areas. That's what Adani has done. That's what Reliance has been doing. They are not in textiles alone today, and Tatas are not in the textiles alone today. In fact, Tata Textiles are gone long back, but there was a starting point for Tatas. So we have a conglomerates, and how to change, not to bring about a frantic effort on the last day of the year. There's no question of last day of the year. Vis-a-vis how roadmap India 2047 can do. This is very important aspect of my podcast episode number 59. Here, which I would like to emphasize, if a roadmap of India $20 trillion to be achieved, that is a lead indicator for everybody. Each and every company has to do the same, meaning you put your target for 2030 and put your target for your 2047 in consonance with what India is trying to do. So I am analyzing the GDP, the three major sectors. You have the service sector, agriculture one, and you have the manufacturing and construction and whatnot. And these three sectors, how it is going to be in 2047, where you are today as a company, the Tata Group or TVS Group or Adani's or Ambani's. Where are you today? Where are you, the startups today? Where you can reach out, how you can do the 2030 to start with as your target, part of your $5 trillion, and how you would be in 2047. So you have a vision, a long-term vision of your company. Forget about India as a whole, of your own company, for which you got to change your methodology of budgeting. Budgeting becomes the key point for all our discussions within a company. Every week, every third day, we are looking at finding out what are the adverse variances and start discussing. One guy accusing the other, and finally we don't arrive at any conclusion. But the result, your progress is stalled. If you are going to have this particular type of budgeting system, each person, each VP coming out with their own responsibility for the budget, we are not able to do the goal congruence. Goal congruence is 2047. Goal congruence is 2030. We are not able to align with the goal congruence of India's budgeting effort. Even this is corporate can do it very easily. What I am trying to tell, in a single unit, single group, you can very easily do that. That could be the landmark for India to do that. India alone is not going to get about $20 trillion without the active participation of budgeting and controls and progress of each of their targets. And if they do it, then India can achieve. India by itself cannot achieve. And there is only a policy matter. In which case, I am looking at it. We are not looking at it in terms of your budget 24-25. As on today, we are discussing 23-24. That is the Ides of March. The beware of the Ides of March. Changeover from 1st of April to a fresh thinking of 24-25. This will be the key area that the government of India, the budgeting process, can also change. The change is in terms from the companies, which can be applied to the national GDP targets, and this is what I going to tell right now as to the GDP GNH. GNH is important, and how the CorporateMOM will be able to provide you with a tool as to how to reach that. What is important is, what I am planning is that December 23 you started the budgeting process, almost finalized, depends upon the last quarter of 23-24, and you are ready with 24-25 budget for your company. Now, from what I would like to give the narrative is that budget for 2030, and then of course to 2047, extrapolate to 2047, so that you don't do the same thing which you have been doing in December 23, switch over to something totally different. What I am anticipating, there's only one budget. When you are going to have a 2030 target or 2047 target, you are not changing the budget. It's a single exercise, one time exercise. Give the this thing and then go towards that. How to reach your own target. We have got about 10,000 crores as your turnover today. In 2030 is going about 100,000 crores, all that sort of thing. How to reach that? So there is no budgeting on a annual basis. You will have a budgeting of keeping the target for 2030 and reaching towards that. Have a look. Here I am starting with sector-wise GDP in India, 22-23. 24 estimate is viable. I'd like to take only on what is being more or less confirmed. Three sectors. One is services at 53.34%, agriculture which is 18.42%. Industry, 28.25%. This is a broad category of what we look at here, and we shall go further into detail how it is going to be analyzed vis-a-vis what Prime Minister Modi has set the target of $5 trillion by 2030. Here I am presenting the figures, GWA in 22-23, rupees and crores mainly, constant prices and current prices. I've taken to the current prices when we are going to look at 2030, extending to 2030. So the current prices, the share being agriculture sector, major industry sector and service sector, converted into billions, since we are talking about the $5 trillion. We shall convert the base price also in terms of dollars. So the number of billions of dollars which is being given in this particular table, totaling $2.981 trillion as on today's, as on not today, it's 24 almost coming to end. 23 yen was 2.98. In 80 years, that 3031, we are going to reach to $5 trillion. The $549 billion on today agriculture sector, I have earmarked out of $5 trillion, $1 trillion for agriculture sector. Number two, I have come to industry sector, which is currently at $842 billion, is almost double, in fact slightly more than double. I'll explain what it is, to 1754 billion, is 1.754. And the services sector is 1589 to 2.245 trillion dollar. Now it is an adjustment figure as far as service sector is concerned, because I have given the specific figure for agriculture, specific figure for industry sector, and then service sector is the balance. I am not putting it that 5 trillion in 2031 will become 6 trillion, keeping the percentage of 53.33. No, I am bringing down the service sector to 44.91 by balancing the figures from 5 trillion. So if you look at the agriculture sector, it is going up from 18.42% to something very different, to 20%, slightly more. The reason being that gives a projection of $1 trillion in 2030-31. China and India were going neck and neck every year until 1993. 93 onwards, Indian agriculture became flat, whereas Chinese agriculture sector had gone up to 1 trillion today. So which is feasible with India projecting that figure of 1 trillion? There are two reasons. One is very well organized FPOs, the farmer producing organization. It's like a corporate house. It is beautifully done. Any number of FPOs have been created in India with a regulated framework. It's a beautiful concept which no other country possibly has. Is just like a corporate, joint stock company. And that each one FPO may have about 40,000 farmers, 50,000 farmers, or 100,000 farmers in each sector, all over, spread all over India. So agriculture is a very, is a very good economy, very paying economy for the farmers, because I stay now in a village. I know the farmers there are very, very happy about because there are no income tax and all that. So it's a beautiful sector, but what is needed is to go up in the production side or produce of $1,000 billion, $1 trillion, for which, for example, in the case of COVID-19, 80 crores people had been fed free ration in the whole of COVID time, and that is the only reason that India did not falter. Had it not been the case, India would have been wiped out completely. And that is a sector which ought to be given the first priority, and which is going to be a paying one, which is the most important thing in a country like India. In fact, Argentina also was there. It was in a bad shape economy wise. It was a bad shape, but the agriculture gave them the support to survive. So agriculture is the most important, and agriculture is a major problem all over the world. So India must give the priority for agriculture out of the 5 trillion in 2030-31 to 1 trillion as far as agriculture is concerned. So it is feasible. I'm giving that how it is feasible. In fact, I've given a complete write-up on that. So I'm giving the yield and other things and all that, where we have to go, what is the total produce. Everything I have given a separate episode, podcast episode, which I will give the connection which I am giving here. Number 2, industry sector. I'll come to the industry sector. One thing which I feel about it is that it is going to be the most important industry sector. Industry sector is going to be the most important thing, which I'm taking up to 28.25% to 35.09%. One of the things which I put is that mining and quarrying, which is currently 2.36%, and I expect that to become 4.22%. That is $70.31 billion to $210.93 billion. I'm giving critical metals and all that in the next page, and why it is very important, mining and quarrying at this point of time, how it is going to support the industry sector is going to be particularly the mining and quarrying in the current scenario. So I put that $210 billion, and the manufacturing to doubled, electricity, gas and water doubled, construction doubled. So the total is $1.754.35 trillion as far as out of the 5,000, which comes to about 30% of the 5 trillion. This is very important because manufacturing part of it is going to be very critical with AI is coming, with various critical metals are pushing out, and I will give the explanation to the next stage, service sector, where it will come to the industry sector. This is service sector, it is reduced because, as I said, is a balancing 53.33 to 44.91%. In this, if you trade, hotels, transport, communication and services related to this is again going up, is about 15% of the total, and financial real estate is also going up 18%. Public administration is only about 11%. The total is about public administration, defense and other things. The reduction of from reduction in the sense of percentage of service sector 53 to 44%, it is technically feasible. The financial, real estate and professional services will remain, but AI coming in, there will be a lot of reduction in terms of the service sector, both in professional. This thing would mostly take care by the AI. So there will definitely be the need for expanding at the fast rate as we have been doing in the IT sector may not come through, which would be, instead of having one too many people in that sector, lesser number of people will be able to do that. One. Number 2, public administration. It is a thing which has to be reduced. For example, I'll give an example of what Kerala government has been doing, which the governor of Kerala had been objecting also. They have their own commie friends, the ministers and this thing, taking PAs, assistants as a personal assistant, and they stay there for about 2 years. If the law is there in Kerala government, is in 2 years, if they stay, they are eligible for a pension. So the pensioners which have been coming through by hook or crook is amazing, and the public administration itself is quite amazing. For example, the economics department, economic statistical department, it is amazingly in numbers. We collect this 22, 23 in current prices and constant prices, 21 this Again, I have given that Indian statistical information system, ecosystem, what I call the number of the way in which the transformation must take place in the statistical department and the public administration. I'm just looking at the statistical department as one of those who could be reduced very heavily, and so is the case with a lot of government servants in central and state governments. This public administration, cost of public administration, as they have been talking about in the states at the moment, like Ramaswamy has been telling, nearly about the EU was talking about 70% reduction. So if the public administration we are able to reduce it, then the number service sector as such will get reduced. That is their portion of the total 5 trillion will get reduced. That's one. Number two, if we come to the defense, a lot of naturally nobody is going to ask for the reduction in the defense expenditure. But what is happening from Prime Minister Modi's initiative is to bring in the private sector, whether it's ISRO or it is manufacture of various like Tejas lanes. We have a lot of private sector induction into the defense requirement. So these things will go into increase the industry sector. This is what I would like to tell. How we are going to approach that is what my main aim of this particular episode is to say beware of the ides of March. Being beware of the ides of March meaning we have been doing something in the past. How to reach the 5 trillion in 2030, not by the same means as we have been doing before, because industrial sector and agriculture sector is becoming more prominent. That I will explain in my next one. Here I am giving the table SF2 or something. Estimated cumulative real revenue for the global production of selected energy transition metals 2021 to 2040. This which I gave it in my analytics on IMF. I think it's podcast number 7 which I am giving the link. What we may note is some of the selected metals which are copper, nickel, cobalt, lithium, vis-a-vis the fossil fuels, oil, natural gas, coal, etc. These things are very critical for our energy sector, which vis-a-vis what we are talking about, like Carl Schwab had told, we stand at the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. In scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before. He said it beautifully, and we have to take note of it, particularly in terms of the economic value that gets added by these selected metals, and as well as the reduction or the dependence on fossil fuels. So this is the one which I am indicating here. Have a look at it. What I made a mention is about the two important formulas which I brought, which is relevant to what we are discussing now. Beware of the ides of March because of the way in which we have been collecting the information, particularly the budgeting area until this year. And the next year onwards, I would like to recommend something different. We are talking only, that is the main point of this episode, which I say the two important points of the crime report analytics, CAGR to CDGR and CARR to CDRR, the daily reduction rate. So we are looking at the addition in terms of taking this from $4.9 trillion to $13 trillion as far as current scenario is concerned for critical metals, and as well as reduction in fossil fuels from total $70 trillion to $19 trillion by 2040. This has to be done on this particular formula. It's not that somebody, in fact, I saw the KPMG survey also. Nearly 85% of the people or the companies that they have contacted and surveyed are not ready with the assurance that ESG assurance is not there. To do that, we got to work. That is the reason why I'm trying to talk about it. How to do that CAGR to CDGR. In the previous page, I have given the CAGR of $2.9 trillion to $5 trillion, roughly about less than 7%. It looks very easy and feasible. But if you go into the detail to the individual companies who have to do that, those sectors, particularly the industry sector, they have a long way to go. And that's why that CAGR to CDGR and CARR to CDR, the daily reduction rate. I have analyzed in the soil and lever from 2007 to 2019 of various process blocks, which I have indicated as the main one in the ratings, about nearly 170 process blocks which I have given as the for the purpose of ratings, culled from the public domain of in the soil and lever. Then I found, which I would like to talk about it, only a few sentences. This HEL shifted the calendar year from January to December to, in aligning with Indian requirement, which is from April to March. So 1 year, that is I think 2007 or something, 2007 to or 2008 to 2009, it had about 457 days. Additional quarter, there is about 4 quarter plus 1 more quarter was added to the public reporting, and the result it was 457. So what I did was that I brought a fairly a big company with a big turnover, everything with connection with this area, that is sales, net sales, the consumption, everything I converted into a 365 days or 366 days or 300 and 457 days, so that it is uniform. It's a per day. This thing is very important, which brought about it. That is the CAGR to CDGR. When we are looking at 80 years since 2030, 31, we are looking at the CAGR about 7%. The CAGR of 7% has to be brought to the individual unit as on today, CDGR, daily growth rate, and then compare it, even whatever that is being done in the past. So I have done it for is about 170 or blocks, process blocks I have done. I will continue to do that or add it up to the latest this thing. I am very keen to do that for big companies like Tata Group or Adani or Reliance Group or very big groups. I will be slowly and steadily. I work alone. I am the only fellow. Whatever that episode that I am doing here is also his own man output. So when it is being done, it is useful. That case study which I have done for the Unilever is very useful. So here what I want to emphasize is the CAGR to CDGR. So particularly on these selected metals, accumulated real revenue from the global production of select energy transition metals, very important. That's the reason why I have the mining and quarrying. I have increased 3 times from $70 billion to $210 billion. That is the point where it is going to be a critical in terms of individual countries. It's not 5 trillion as such. It's a question of what we are talking about. Like iPhone 15 has come out with A17 processor. The industry's first 3 nanometer chips, and this is going to be the important thing. There's only one. Whatever the chips we are getting is from Taiwan, is about 55%, and there's only one company which is from Netherlands producing it. So it's a complete monopoly as far as the item is concerned. So what Prime Minister Modi had clearly indicated about such of these quarrying and mining aspects would come to the fore in terms of, if it is not $210 billion, could even go to $1 trillion. That is the energy force of what Modi has given, and it is up to the individual companies who are going to take care of it. I give here a list of industries which are being indicated here by this very good website IBEF, and you get quite a lot of information with regard to what India's economy will drive towards. whether it is a textile or agriculture, allied industries, or every information is beautifully created by this website. Here I would like to bring in what we are talking about is a beware of the ides of March. The 15th of March every year, if you have to look at it for the last about 60 years, we have been repeating the same thing, or creating 1 year's budget and trying to go towards. What brings up in our discussion is this having a target of 5 trillion by the Indian economy, as mentioned by the Prime Minister, and going toward that in a specified period of time. Here, as I said earlier, is each and every company within each and every industry have to bring that up. They are also participating. They're very keen about it. So this is what I would like to mention, how to change from the previous methodology of budgeting for 1 year or 3 years or 5 years. Now we are looking at in terms of 2030 and how it is going to bring about the change within each company. As I said, the most important thing is CAGR to CDGR. If your particular company has been getting a CAGR of 5% or 10%, now how to reach that to make it more profitable and most economical. We are talking the economy. We are talking the economical way of doing things. It is economics that we are talking about. So each company has to strive to see that they contribute to reach the goal. In this process, I want to tell about what the CorporateMOM has done, facilitated bringing up a methodology of targeting 2030 and bringing in CDGR, daily growth rate. The daily growth rate is going to be very important. So 3 ways in which it has been done, if only you go through the CorporateMOM principles, which already have the ratings had been given, ERP to EPP, and the metrics, everything had been already we discussed, and I'm happy very many companies have gone through that, and more number of people within a particular company also had gone through that. So here I'm giving that methodology for all of you to have a look at and be prepared to prepare a strategy plan 2030 for your company. Okay, so the 3 things which I would like to inform. The principle number 5, emergent property phenomenon. If this strategy plan 2030 is being completed, which is in the last but one stage, that is in the process of creating a strategy plan, it is a last but one stage, the 6 stages of transformation. You get at the end of it a very good substance of quality, which is strategy plan 2030. Be ready for it. There are 3 principles under which the emergent property, what will happen to you, is what I am trying to bring about. Number 1, the conformability of nature to herself. For nature is very consonant and conformable to herself. That's what Isaac Newton said. That is how it has been prepared. We have created the corporate atomic structure. The first principle, conformability of nature to herself, is being met. Is an important, that is, you are talking of physics. Physics is a very important aspect of bringing in your corporate management. That is 1. Number 2, applicability of simplicity. It is ensured by limiting the entire management process to only 2 processes, the creative process and the action process. The second principle of emergent property, the applicability of the criterion of simplicity is met. The only 2 processes. What we have seen earlier of critical metals, that's a creative process. You have a target of 2040, wherein various metals are going to be looked into, how it is going to create from 4 trillion to 13 trillion opportunity to enhance one's own requirement. That is the future. So your company, if not only this, that innovation, that IPRs, that creative, that is a part of it. There's a most important part of development for a single company toward reaching that goal. The goal is $5 trillion Indian economy. That is your own goal. When you have to reach it, you have to create the various aspects of management, the IPRs for patents, etc. And this is the one that will be prominently brought into focus in Strategy Plan 2030 for your company. That is one. Number two, the action process. Having got the substance of quality, that is Strategy Plan 2030, got to execute. That execution part of it is the very significant factor which very many companies fail due to any number of reasons, which we will take into account in the next page. This page, that is the one, that is a simplicity, it's applicability of simplicity. Entire management process is brought only to two. Number three, unreasonable effectiveness. In return on the intangible, covering the entire gamut of management with a single formula, the unreasonable effectiveness principle is met. Unreasonable effectiveness is the art of resolving a paradox with the least number of mathematical calculations. This is the return on the intangible is metaphysics. The conformability, corporate atomic structure is physics. The applicability of simplicity is quantum physics, matter and energy. Whereas unreasonable effectiveness in the return on intangible is the metaphysics. So we have all the three covered as a scientific management approach for hitting the target of 5 trillion. Your contribution, your company, your industry, and the entire industry sector, which we are looking at expanding to a very great extent, is going to be very significant. So please have a look. Here I present the textile industry, textiles and apparel. This particular industry contributes 2.3% to India's GDP, employs over 45 million people, contributes 12% to India's export earnings. This is where I stay here in near Coimbatore. I had the opportunity of talking to a software specialist, good in ERP, and we had done a lot of good work on creating software for cost reduction. When we say cost reduction, particularly in this particular industry, is significant. Almost every mill owner, every mill that you come across would be keep calculating the cost. So it has been so for several decades. Here, what I want to talk about is in all the four areas. There is cotton, then spinning, then weaving, then apparel. So the garment section is very huge, no doubt, very competitive. Tirupur is the place where everything is there. When in each value addition, the cost is a significant factor. One that goes from cotton to spinning, spinning to weaving, the cost addition, it is a matter of great concern with every company. In this case, as an example, is a good example, but it's the same thing everywhere. Every manufacturing company has this major problem. I'll tell you why. Here, in the what we call the variable costs. The variable cost is mainly the raw materials input and the power sector, power, etc., electricity, power, and whatnot. The variable cost, we say variable because this comes from a supplier and depends upon the number of units that you produce. The cost varies. So as simple as that. But variable cost is not, this is one which we normally use for the marginal cost principle. Then contribution part of it is being done. As to the fixed cost, unless you have a minimum variable cost turnover, sales turnover, you won't be able to cover the fixed costs. That is where the problem arises. That is a fixed cost. The employee cost is one. Employee cost is not only in this thing, and everywhere where there's an employee this thing, which I have seen even a company like in soil and labor. The cost to revenue of employee cost, it doesn't go variable. Meaning, if you have the cost addition for one unit, incremental cost is more than the incremental revenue. This is very strange for me because the employee cost mainly for whatever the pricing that you do for employees, the significant factor in terms of bringing out the better margin, the contribution margin, lies with the employee. That is what I'm coming to in terms of APP, effort per person. This has to be organized. Many companies, many MNCs go to get the placement, for placement to IIM and IIT and all that, and bring at a very high cost, a lot of employees. If that be the case, the incremental revenue for each addition, nothing wrong in paying very high. You got to calculate the incremental revenue should be more than the incremental cost. So this is an important factor. This one, which is in every company is a problem. Number two, advertisements. Advertisements again is too much of advertising happens. If you look at the Byju's, they went completely went in for advertisement. Not very strict about it because somebody gives it was not a charity that all these VCs gave to them. They're all coming back and asking for it. So running a company with advertisements is another marketing cost has to be taken into account. Number three is the finance cost. Finance cost for all these companies. When you go for investment, improvement, factories and other places, the finance costs, particularly running the organization, is becoming a major problem, and that has to be controlled. So another one is high-priced ERP packages. Most of the MNCs go for SAP and other things. Is a very major, I've seen and you have seen, getting the SAP out of the floor and making it work. It took years, and it has costed every company very, very much. And this has become a fixed cost for very many companies. What is the revenue model for SAP is the fixed cost for hundreds of companies. Take note of it. Now we are into the AI hype. This AI hype, how it is going to help is for the future. You have to be very careful about it. So these 5 items are your fixed costs. The fixed costs should be made variable. Variable in terms of how it varies in terms of the revenue model. If the revenue is there and fixed cost is, you are able to give the fixed cost, incremental revenue, then yes. Otherwise it becomes a real problem for companies. So this has to be controlled. This has to be controlled on a daily basis. That's what I mentioned in terms of CAGR to CDGR. The CDGR is a daily growth rate. Growth rate will be affected if the fixed cost goes on going up. The reason why, what we call as the variable costs do not vary. That is, if you have about 83% as your variable cost at the moment, because the fixed cost of the upstream company, the supplier, they also do the same mistake. Or employee costs and advertisements and finance costs and high-priced ERP packages and if they want to go, all those things which the upstream companies do, your supplier, their fixed cost is also very high. With the result, they are not able to pass on to any benefit to you. That is a scope 2 companies. Scope 2 companies suffer not only because of the raw materials input and because of the energy factor. The energy is very high. The cost of consumption is very high. From 83% if you are at the moment, to reduce it to 82% is a phenomenal task. It's not easy. This companies must realize is one thing which I have seen with the textile companies, very obvious, and of course in various companies which are doing the manufacturing sector. It's a very big cost that I have to look at. That's why the energy part of it to be reduced, you got to make an investment within the company as for an alternate energy. So that is the return on investment. That return on investment is the individual company's capability to reduce the variable cost and bring about the reduction in your fixed cost and make a profitable operation. This is the one which I like to talk about it to every company, for which CorporateMOM provides you with how to do that, the strategy plan 2030 in every aspect. How to do that variable cost reduction. What is the investment? What we talked about, IPR and other things, and critical metals for energy factors, those things, plus the employee costs. So what I am not even praised. In fact, my work is not, it is not in terms of how you are going to price it. What I was talking to my friend from the industry, that is textile industry, make him to do that. You create the ERP and EAPP. I'm not going to do that. I'm only an advisor. You create in a cost which is easy for textile companies or other companies to absorb, and do not price it like as you do the SAP. Don't go for a big VC funding and make a big investment in marketing and try to sell your EPP. EPP is a software product. It will be coming, but it will be coming by the vendors, by the licensed personnel, and make it as less costly as possible, so that the purpose is to put the strategy plan through EPP and action process being talked about in terms of bringing the CAGR to CDGR and the daily growth rate and daily reduction rate. A lot of things about 200 process blocks are there. It has to be reduced in terms of reducing the employee cost, or not exactly the employee cost, the revenue model has to be increased, the revenue model, so that per capita employee cost you are able to get a better revenue. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's about it. If you look at this, there are two different index of inactivity. One is by process area, another by resource area. In index of inactivity, we have CREAM, that is corporate governance, risk management, earnings, accounting quality, and management quality. And in resource area, we have ER management, especially for women equity. They take care of the ethical responsibility for a company. Then force fiscal responsibility people. One from the manager force, could be a supervisor, operating force, maybe the salesman or a factory worker, technical direction force, men and women equity, and everywhere you can have both, and finance and HR, men and women. Women take dual responsibility. As and when they take the ethical responsibility area, they also take the fiscal responsibility. That's what I said in the SOS governance, entirely for women. Give that ethical responsibility factor. If you look at the table, the three sectors, agriculture sector, industry sector, services sector, are trifurcated to three areas. One, creative process. Number two is action process. Number three is the addition of creative process and action process. So you can call the creative process the intellectual value capital, action process as a action value capital, and entity is your intangible value capital. Then is 0 to 5. There are two different stages. One is a creative process, another is action process. A creative process is a R&D guy, innovator, IPR guy, strategy planning guy, policy maker. There are several people who work only on accounting quality and management quality. That's what I said in this OS governance. Here, this is the policy making directives that come from the board and also from the government, and one has to create. The one is mandatory, another is non-mandatory. There are 200 process blocks, out of which 188 belongs to this qualitative items management and 12 are the quantitative elements of management. In the quantitative elements of management, you have that earnings 1, 2, 3, the third one, earnings. Whereas qualitative elements of management, 188, are spread over corporate governance, risk management, accounting quality, and management quality. If there is a policy available, if it is being followed, then it is taken for granted that everything is fine. You may give a 5 marks, 5 rating of 5. But this has to be done by individual team, the team of 5. One is ethical responsibility who takes care of it, 188 of them, and the other 4 take care of the fiscal responsibility. It could be sales, it could be supply chain management, it could be accounting, and so many things. And there, individually you create what are the rating system. This is derived from the ecosystem that is by nature. So that is everlasting system. One is which you can see more on my book actually. I have not given here. It is 0, state of quiescence. That is, nothing is happening around. It's all idea. Then you get a conceptual idea. Then you communicate, you form a team, you formulation the policies and bring out a substance of quality. So strategy plan 2030 is very critical in terms of bringing what we want to do in 2030, and you bring it back by the action process. If the substance of quality or a strategy plan has been made well, and if you are not acting upon it, this is gross. Whereas the creative policies is very subtle, subtler than the subtle. It starts with subtler than the subtle. Whereas in the action process, you got to, if you're not going to make use of the substance of quality or IPR or policy, then that particular one is in a state of insentience. Like that, there are about 200 process blocks in 188 being the qualitative. Then same is in terms of conceptual, communication, formation, formulation. And the final one is a task accomplished. If it is a sales team, there are about 6 stages of transformation from 0 to 100. Make below 0 and above 100. You have 6 stages. Every 25% you can add to either conceptual. If your target is 100, more than 100 you get about 5. If the particular sale happens for a particular product, anything, nothing happens, is below 0 instead of insentience. So we are having a very thorough ecosystem established, connected to the nature. That is the important. Illustratively, let me quote from my GE case study. So if you look at GE as such, GE has got various indicated Ford and GE as on the decline. I believe that is being based on the ex post facto quantitative elements, P&L and balance sheet. But that's not the case. If you really look into find out the reason why it is nothing has been done, as is being reported about the scandals and other things and all that, you got to look at the corporate governance, risk management, accounting quality, and management quality. These 188 elements have to be measured. When you measure that, they are the raw materials for your earnings. The reason why Ford or GE are on the decline is because of lack of these qualitative elements of management being measured. That is being connected to the resource area. There's only one resource for any company, anybody. That is human resource, nothing else. That is the pulsating energy. That is the return on intangible. How each individual unit is being carried by a team of people, one taking care of the ethical responsibility, another 4 taking care of the fiscal responsibility. Each is works independently, but they are yoked together. So each team is, you get 0 to 5. So if you look at the GE, and what is the 0 to 5 in individual? Who are the people? So you create a matrix which is equal. That is the rating for this resource area and the rating for the process area or intermingled. And when it is being done, you have connectivity in terms of who did what. That's why the 2030 strategy plan is very important. And the 4th stage, that is when formulation, it is the most important stage where a substance of quality is created, where it is being acted upon subsequently. The creative process, I would say, is the intellectual value capital of the company, and the action process is performance value. So you have the performance index of each and everybody. It could be 5, it could be 0. So in a particular team, it could be 25, which is 5. It could be 24, it should be only 4. It could be 0, so it could be anything. That is the one which we indicate on this on Google or Coca-Cola or Walmart or GE. So you have a comprehensive intermingled rating system which will be able to identify the cause of lower earnings or higher earnings. Illustratively, UNCAC, that is United Nations Convention Against Corruption, is a super document that will get rated 5. But it is in a state of insentience. Hence, it will get 0 by action process rates. Together, entity rating would be 5 plus 0 divided by 2 is equal to 2. Only integer is taken. The entity intangible value capital becomes 2. Earnings would reflect the target of US $5 trillion. Even if India reaches US $5 trillion, the rest, cram, would decide the fate of the India country ratings 0 to 5. So, beware of the ides.